Episode of Picks with Rich. I am Rant'N Rich, and as always, I want to thank you for watching the show today. UFC 240 is going down this Saturday, July 27th, 2019 in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It's going to be headlined by Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar at 145 pounds. I cannot wait for that fight. Also, don't forget about the co-main event. Can't wait to see Cris Cyborg getting back into the octagon, getting back on that horse. She's going to be taking on newcomer Felicia Spencer. Felicia Spencer? Oh, shoot. Felicia Spencer. Yeah, so she fights for Invicta FC, I guess, and she's got a pretty good jiu-jitsu game, so curious to see how this is going to go. I think I know how it's going to go, but hey, all jokes aside, Felicia Spencer is quite the contender for Cyborg. I don't know how it's going to go. It is style versus style. Felicia Spencer definitely has more of the jiu-jitsu background, and of course Cyborg is just a punching machine, so very excited to see how that one goes down. So before I get into my picks for UFC 240, I do want to mention that I know it has been a long time. It's been months since my last episode of Picks with Rich. I've just been very, very busy, but I'm back at it, and I apologize because I know a lot of you out there do depend on my picks to win some money, but never fear because I am back. I am here, and I am ready to go, and I'm ready to win you, and myself, of course, some money. So without further ado, let's not waste any more time. Go grab your pen, go grab your paper, take good notes, and these are my picks for UFC 240. Check it out. Alright guys, so I don't have too many actually on this card. I only have two. The odds were just way too high for me. There were about 4 or 5 of them that looked pretty good, but I'm going to give you my reasons why I didn't pick those, but I'm going to give you the 2 picks that I did do. Okay, so my first fight at 125 pounds, we have Alexandre Pantoja versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Pantoja's coming in as the favorite at a minus 120. He is 21-3 in his professional career, 5-1 in the UFC, 29 years old, and he's coming off of 3 wins in a row, including a dominant KO win back in April of this year. His last loss was way back in 2018, where he fought Dustin Ortiz and lost by unanimous decision. He's a very balanced fighter, and actually I'm going to get into Figueiredo in a sec, but these two are very, very evenly matched, very close. I'd say if anything, if Pantoja he's pretty good on the feet too, but it's that wrestling, and his BJJ is very strong. I think that will be dominant against Figueiredo if it does go to the mat. Speaking of Figueiredo, he is the underdog at a plus 100 or even. He's 15-1 in his professional career, 4-1 in the UFC. He's 31 years old. He's coming off of a loss to Jussier Formiga back in March. Before that, he never lost a professional fight, which is pretty incredible. His biggest asset is that he is a heavy hitter. For someone in the flyweight division, he can put the lights out at any given moment. He's also very technical on the feet. I'd have to give Pantoja, maybe he's a little bit more technical when it comes to striking, but as far as striking power and strength, I'd have to give it to Figueiredo. So I'm going to go with the underdog. I think Figueiredo is going to win by decision. I'm going to put up $100 to make 100. Okay, so this is my second and last fight. At lightweight, we have Oliver Aubin-Mercier versus Arman Tsarukyan. And I think I'm saying that right. Bear with me if I don't have the correct pronunciation. But anyway, starting off with Mercier, he is coming in as the underdog at a plus 170. That's actually what really caught my eye on this fight. I thought that was way off. I thought that should have been a lot closer, but I'm going to get into that in a second. He is 12-4 in his professional career, 7-4 in the UFC. He is 30 years old, and unfortunately he's coming off of 2 losses in a row, which does not look good for him. One to Alexander Hernandez, and we just saw Alexander Hernandez fight last weekend. He's a monster. Shouldn't be ashamed about that one. And then Gilbert Burns, who's also on a tear. He's a beast. Shouldn't be ashamed about that one either, but still at the end of the day, a loss is a loss, and Mercier really has to do something to turn that losing streak around. Before that, he won 4 fights in a row, so he was doing pretty well up until that hump. So he's got to get over that hump and get back in there and start winning some fights. He is the hometown guy, so that should go in his favor, hopefully, if this fight does go to decision. But I think he needs this win. I think he's going to be desperate, and that desperation, I feel, is going to push him over the edge, be the Mercier from back in the day on that Ultimate Fighter season where he was just tearing it up. So moving on to his opponent, Arman Tsarukyan. He is 13-2 in his professional career. He is 0-1 in the UFC, so he did lose his first fight. He is 22 years of age. Don't know if that's a good or bad thing when kids are fighting this young, 21, 22. The experience is definitely lacking, even though he has just as many fights as Mercier. I still feel a sense of maturity or experience is lacking. So I would say his first fight in the UFC is coming a loss. That was back in April. And I know he's going to try to out-wrestle Mercier. That's his whole MO. All those guys, Khabib Nurmagomedov, try to take him down, probably end up taking him down, go for some ground and pound. But Mercier, again, he's pretty good on the mat, so I'm curious to see how that's going to end up. And also, I forgot to mention, sorry about that, Sarukian is the favorite at a minus 200. So I saw that on, I just thought it was way off. I thought that should have been closer. These guys are more evenly matched than that. So I took advantage. That's right. I'm going to take Olivier Aubin Mercier at a plus 170. So it's going to be $100 to make 170. And I think he's going to win by submission if he gets it done. Second choice would be this fight goes to decision and Mercier gets the decision win in Canada. I think it's going to be on his side, the hometown guy. It definitely makes a difference, and we'll just have to wait, see what happens. Okay, so that's that. And again, let me explain that I'm only picking the people that I'm going to actually pick come Saturday night. I'll put them in. I don't want to give every single fight if it's not going to mean some type of benefit to my listeners. I don't want to just ramble off fighters that I may know, may not know. At the end of the day, it's fun, but somewhat pointless for what I'm trying to do. And again, I'm trying to make the listeners some money. These are the picks that I'm going to do, and I'm just going to enjoy the rest of it. Now, next time or in the future, I do plan on giving you my DraftKings setup in the picks that I do for fantasy, because that works a little bit different. You basically have a salary cap, and then you have to pick fighters, and once your salary cap is done, it's done. So it's similar, and I've said this before in my other Picks with Rich episodes, but it's still very different. It's almost like you do have to pick certain guys to kind of fill up that roster when it comes to fantasy. So a little bit different, but I do want to give some honorable mentions here. There were 4 other fights that were pretty close. We have Lemos versus Bozer fight. Bozer was a minus 170 and Lemos was a plus 150. Now this is both of their debuts. I don't know much about them, so that's why I didn't even want to do any homework. I don't want to guess. I don't want to throw it out there. I want to be familiar with fighters and have something inside, a good feeling that tells me to pick them. So also we had Eric Koch versus Kyle Stewart. Koch's coming in as the plus 100 underdog and Stewart is the minus 120. Now I was a little curious about this one, and I did look into this one, and I kind of went back and forth a little bit, but I decided I just don't have confidence in either of these fighters. But gun to the head, if I had to, I would pick Koch. I think he would win by submission, but again, I don't have enough confidence in him to put up $100. Another one that looked pretty close was Jillian Robertson versus Sarah Frota. Not familiar with these girls. I did quickly look at it. I looked at the stats and the fight history and everything else. I'd take Frota, I guess, but no confidence in these two fighters. Don't know enough about them. I don't want to just give you anybody just to give them to you. Frota's coming in as the underdog at a plus 110, and Robertson is the favorite at a minus 130. Now, if you guys are familiar with them, of course, look into it, do your research, and pick one of those because they are pretty close. And the last one was Tucker versus Choi. Choi only has one fight in the UFC. Tucker has 2 fights in the UFC. Not as familiar with them. Tucker is the slight favorite at a minus 125, and Choi is the underdog at a plus 105. Looked at their stats, looked at some of their fight history in their previous fights. Nothing about either of these guys really blows me away, so I'm going to leave that one alone. And then also we do have, 2 more, of course. I would love to bet on the co-main and main on every single card, because those to me usually are the most exciting fights. Of course, we have Chris Cyborg versus Felicia Spencer, but now Cyborg, as good as she is, and coming off of a loss to Amanda Nunes, remember, she is a minus 700 to minus 800. I've seen it fluctuate in between that. Minus 800 I think is ridiculous. I do think Chris Cyborg is going to win, guys. So if you have the money and you want to risk that type of money to get such a small amount back, go for it. I really think Chris is gonna, I think she's pissed off about her last loss. I think she's grown since then. She's learned a lot. Spencer's really not the stand-up type of person coming out of Invicta FC. She is more of a ground fighter. She's the underdog at a plus 450, and I've seen her as high as a 520. I'm not canceling anybody out. I told you guys this before. Anything can happen on any given day in this sport, so I wouldn't count her out completely. Spencer, she seems like she's ready to make her debut. She seems like she's basically got nothing to lose fighting someone as tough as Chris Cyborg, but I still think Chris Cyborg is going to pound her face in in so many words, and I don't think Spencer really has a shot. So, and of course, the main event, Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar. Holloway's coming in at a crazy minus 400, also coming off of a loss to Dustin Poirier, right? Yeah, Dustin Poirier earlier this year. Frankie Edgar, the plus 325 underdog. Frankie's been around a long time. I remember seeing that guy on True Life on MTV. Was like a documentary series that they used to run on MTV, and this guy was on. He was getting married. I think he was just kind of around starting his career. Pretty sure he was in the UFC at that point, but it was years ago, and Frankie has been kicking ass and taking names ever since then. He's a tough guy, stamina for days, great boxer. I don't think he has the skills anymore with a younger guy like Max Holloway to really get it done. Frankie Edgar mostly is a boxer. We've seen him take people down and wrestle quite a bit too, but he likes to usually keep it standing. And I think Max Holloway, I don't see him getting outboxed by Frankie Edgar. And also too, if Edgar does decide to take it down, Max Holloway's got some really underrated takedown defense. So I'm really curious on what happens. Cyborg, I think Holloway's going to win. Not going to take them. They're way too high. Even the over and under were too high for me. So that's why I'm sticking with the two. Doesn't make sense to lose money on odds that are this high. Okay, so there you have it. Not a long list this time. I know there's only 2 fighters on my list, but like I said, I'm going for 100 to make 100. 102, I believe it was 170. So take it the way you want to take it. You can split that up in half. You can double it up. You can triple it up, whatever you think. I know I'm taking quite a risk on Mercier, but I really think he's going to get it done. And just remember, word of advice, I'm not telling you $100 to make you go broke. If you don't have it, don't spend it. I'm giving you a base of $100, 100 to make 100, 100 to make 170. Split it in half if you don't have it. 50 to make 50, 50 to make 1 plus carry the 4, 120.
A few moments later.
Okay, I got it. 50 to make 85 on the second bet, that Mercier bet, right? That's going to do it for the show. Be on the lookout for my vlog channel. It's a completely separate channel that I'm going to be doing more interviews and things like that. If you haven't checked out my last video, my 5 top tips for betting on MMA, make sure you go down and check that one out too. Hopefully that'll help you out, make some money also. So that's going to do it. Enjoy the fights on Saturday night. And as always, Rant'N Rich here, signing out from sunny SoCal. I'm out of here. Later.